friends, it's Valerie. Welcome back to this week's What's for Dinner. If you are new here, I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. And don't forget to leave a like or a comment down below because it really does help my channel. Today's What's for Dinner, I've got some new meals for you. And my favorite of the week was actually just a throw together meal. It ended up being like some things I needed to use up, like I had mascarpone and some cherry tomatoes that had to get used up. So I looked up a recipe to try to use them, and it was just like a simple pasta dish, but it was so good. But other than that, let's just get started. Okay, so I'm starting off by taking my large skillet over medium heat. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then I'm adding in a medium size diced onion. It's a yellow onion, and I'm just going to saute that onion until it's translucent, which is about 4 to 5 minutes. And then I'm adding in a few cloves of garlic that I minced up, as well as 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning and a 1/4 teaspoon of dried red chili pepper flakes. And I'm stirring that all together to get those onions nice and coated with all those seasonings. And I'm only doing this for about a minute. I thought it was a little dry, so I added a little bit extra olive oil. And then I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and just stirring that together again with the onions, kind of like getting them coated and all that. Kind of have to break it up a little bit. And then you're going to take 14 ounces of cherry tomatoes and add those in. I did half them, and I was quite short on ounces for 14 ounces, so I had like 11. So I just cut up a Roma tomato that I had, I diced it up and added in as well. It was an easy way to use up something I already had. And I stirred that together for a moment, and then I'm adding in a 1/2 cup of chicken stock and just giving that all a good stir. This is going to start to like break down into that sauce. I went ahead and covered that and let it simmer for about 10 minutes or until your tomatoes have softened. And in the meantime, I'm going to cook up the pasta. I'm using this Rayo's spaghetti, and I'm just cooking it to al dente. And when it's done cooking, you will reserve some of that pasta water. I made sure to reserve a 1/2 cup, but you probably only need a 1/3 cup or so. And I added it in and gave it all a good stir. Now, if you do need some more pasta water, just go ahead and add that in. It says to let this simmer for another 10 to 12 minutes. I found 5 minutes to be fine for me. I was wanting this to be a little bit quicker of a meal, so it worked perfectly fine to just do 5 more minutes. And then once that was good, your tomatoes are softened, you'll add in 3 tablespoons of mascarpone. And if you don't have that, I think cream cheese would also work. It's just like a cream-based cheese. And then stir it all together till that melts and becomes like one nice creamy sauce, and then toss in your pasta. I like to add in little bits at a time to make sure that, I have a nice sauce to pasta ratio for my liking. Now, if you like it very saucy, you might want to double up on this sauce for the whole pound of spaghetti or pasta, whichever you're using. And then I'm just adding in some Parmesan cheese. This is not the fresh kind, it's just the grated like green can kind, and it's what I have on hand and need to use up, so it works perfectly good in a pinch like that. And this is just to show you what I was left with pasta wise. This is of course to my ratio to sauce preference, but that's just an idea for you if you want to double up that sauce or not. I don't mind the extra pasta because I can just put some butter and garlic and Parmesan on it, and it will be a nice lunch. But we really enjoyed this meal. It was so delicious. I just love the fact that I could use up some tomatoes like this. I'm going to be definitely keeping this recipe because I often end up like buying bigger containers of tomatoes just for snacking, and I'm left with some and they start to go bad. This is a good way to use that up, and this is how I found the recipe. I was just needing to use the ingredients up. I had mascarpone that need to use up and the cherry tomatoes, so I searched for a recipe that I could use that in, and this is what I ended up finding that sounded good to me, and it did not disappoint. I love the creaminess of the sauce. If you didn't have mascarpone, like I said, you could probably substitute cream cheese or burrata if you have it. That would be really delicious. And then I served this just with some cucumbers on the side with Italian dressing, and overall we just love this whole meal. And then on this night, I just ended up having Carl's Jr. This was an odd night for us. My boyfriend actually works graveyard, and he actually had to end up going in a little earlier for some overtime, and it was like right at dinner time. So I didn't have time to cook for this like last minute thing. So I just got some Carl's Jr. for myself to have a quick meal and not have to cook. And I just got their like superstar and fries, and it was pretty good. Okay, I'm starting this off by taking some Cavender's all-purpose Greek seasoning. The recipe just says to use salt and pepper, but I had this and it sounded really good, so I'm putting that on my chicken. It calls for 4 chicken breasts. I have 2 chicken breasts that I halved into 4 pieces, and that's what I'm using. I didn't need 4 like bigger chicken breasts to just the 2 of us. So I cut those in half. I placed them in the bottom of a 9x13 dish that is sprayed with some cooking spray, and then I'm taking some hummus and dolloping that on top of the chicken. It says in total you need 4 tablespoons, so that's kind of like what I'm eyeing here. Now it calls for classic hummus, I believe, and I have this roasted pine nut hummus that I just need to use up, so it was perfect for this dish. In fact, like I've mentioned before, I like to have ingredients and then search for recipes based on them, so I had a lot of hummus that needed to get used up, so I searched for a recipe to use it and found this. And so anyway, so I'm just spreading that all across the tops of the chicken breast, and then I'm going to sprinkle some paprika on the top of that, and I'm just going to set that aside really quick while I cut up my little bit of vegetables here. So I'm going to take the equivalent of about a small yellow onion and cut that into some wedges. You can also use red onion, I think that'd be great with it. And then it calls for 2 lemon slices. I only used 1 and it was perfect for this amount for me, in my opinion. And I just kind of spread that throughout. I broke up those chunks a little bit, but I still kept them like in some nice chunky layers. Sorry, my cat's hitting the camera there and it's bouncing around for you guys. But anyways, then I take the lemon slices and also place those on top of my chicken strategically, and as you can see, it covers it enough. I don't need lemon everywhere, so 1 worked perfect. And then I'm taking Kalamata olives, and I'm just eyeing that and putting what we would like. My boyfriend's not a huge olive lover in general, and Kalamata for sure, but I love them. I love all olives, so I don't mind putting extra and taking all of his. And then I baked that in the oven at 350 degrees. I did about 30 minutes because my chicken, like I said, was a little bit thinner, but if yours is thicker, you'll want to check that at 40 to 45 minutes. This is where having like a meat thermometer comes in super handy. And I served this with some asparagus that I air fried and some of the rice-a-roni rice pilaf rice, and I put some feta cheese on top of that chicken, and it was really delicious. I'm a huge fan of anything like Greek or Mediterranean tasting. I love the fresh flavors of lemon and olives and feta, and the hummus is also a favorite of mine, and I love that pine nut hummus. It's so good. So I really loved this meal a lot. I kept this night super simple and just made some turkey club sandwiches. I had some lunch meat and bacon to use up, so I just use some turkey meat. It was like the Sam's Club one. I really like that one. And like I said, bacon. I did Havarti cheese, lettuce, tomato, your favorite toppings. And I served this on some brown bread because that's really what I like. And I made some tater tots, and I had some apple, so I just sliced that up so we could have some fruit on the side, keep it nice and fresh and light. I love a good sandwich and a cool dinner night, especially with how hot it's been here. It's been like in the 90s. This really was just a quick, easy, and delicious meal. I'm starting this off by taking my slow cooker and adding about a 1/4 cup or so of orange juice to the bottom of that. That's just going to help add some flavor to this carnitas roast that I get from Aldi. It's already seasoned and it's so great to have on hand. I just put that in the bottom in the orange juice with its juices, and I'm going to cook this on low for 8 hours, but you can definitely do high, anywhere, start checking it like 4 to 5 hours. And this is about a 2 to 3 pound roast. I love how inexpensive they are at like under $5. And this is what it looks like after. I shredded it up, and I'm just taking a baking sheet lined with foil. I'm gonna put this on the baking sheet shredded up, and I'm gonna broil it in the oven for about 5 minutes. You don't have to do this, but it adds a nice crunchy texture to it, which is great for carnitas. And then once I take that out, I am putting you can start anywhere from a quarter's worth of the liquid from the crock pot, but I did about a 1/2 cup. That's just what my preference was, but start off with a quarter to your liking. Tossed it all together, and I just set it aside. And then I'm taking the baking sheet again lined with foil, but I do regret the foil. I keep forgetting that I need to use just like my Silpat mat or parchment paper, something where the cheese won't stick to. But I put a layer of chips, and I'm using these cheeses up that I have. It's just extra sharp and triple cheddar. and I am putting that on top of my tortilla chips. This is just a preference. Whatever chips you like, whatever cheese you like, just put that on top. I stick it back in the oven. I don't put it on broil because I don't want to burn my chips, but I'll leave it at like 400 degrees. And I just watch that 3-4 minutes, make sure the cheese is melted. That's all that matters to me. And then I put the carnitas on top of that, and I sprinkle a little bit more cheese after, just to like, it's kind of like a binder to me to like keep it all in place. But you don't have to put this back in the oven. It's just a preference that I like, because I like to add a little bit more cheese. So I just put it again just a few minutes just to melt the cheese, and I keep that still at about 400 degrees. And I had got this chosen guacamole, so I was gonna try it for the first time. I made some pico with some Roma tomatoes diced up, as well as diced onion, jalapeno, some cilantro, fresh garlic, and salt, and the juice of a lime. And it's really good on top. And then I added some sour cream. If you have queso or extra cheese you want to add, so good. But nachos can never disappoint. Like, this really hits the spot. It's just fresh. I like the fresh toppings on top. That's like my favorite part. Like, a nacho is great and all, but when you add the guacamole and the sour cream and the pico, it just makes it so great to me. So we really love this. On this night, we had a little date night out at Buca di Beppo. We hadn't been there in a while, so I was really craving their chicken parm. So we got a plate of that. We got the large size, which we definitely didn't eat. We each ate one piece and were completely full, because we also decided to get their like mozzarella garlic bread, and that's a whole plate of that as well, and that was delicious. So pairing these two together made my heart really happy, because I'm a huge fan of garlic, and like I said, I just was craving that chicken parm. And then we got some dessert, because I had a freebie for the colossal brownie still for my birthday. So I redeemed that because, well, dessert sounded amazing. And I had seen someone else get it, and although it looked huge, it looked amazing. And it had like caramel and brownie, and had chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and like whipped topping. It was a lot, but it was so good. Okay, I'm starting this off by taking a large skillet over medium-high heat. I have a pound of ground turkey here that I'm adding to the skillet. I did put a little bit of oil in the bottom of the skillet because this is a very lean meat, and I'm breaking that up a little, but I'm going to kind of let it rest and kind of brown up a little bit, and then I'll break it up with my meat chopping tool, and when there's a little bit of pink left, I'll add in about a teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and it doesn't call for any garlic powder, but I added some garlic powder, and I'm going to break that up some more and let that finish cooking. And once it's finished, I'll remove it from the pan, set it aside, and then now to my pan. If you had used ground beef like the original recipe that I'll have linked for you says, you can leave some of the fat drippings in there, like 2 tablespoons worth, but since mine was lean ground turkey, I have to add some oil in there. So I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. And then I doubled up the garlic by mincing like 4 cloves worth. So I added that in, as well as some minced ginger. I just have like squeeze tube kind. I just call for just like a thumb of grated ginger. So I added that in. I'm getting that in the oil a little bit. And then I'm adding in zucchini. So I switched up this recipe a lot by changing the vegetables. They do use 1 zucchini, but I'm using like 3 zucchini. And I'm not going to add broccoli or cabbage like they did. I'm just going to do zucchini and carrots because that's what I have on hand. It's also 2 things we both really love. So I'm adding the zucchini in there, stirring it all together to get it nice and coated, letting that saute for about 3 to 4 minutes on its own. Then I'll add in my grated carrots because they are much thinner. They don't need to be in there as long. I still want them to have a little slight bit of texture, like crunch to them. So and I used my grater for that. Just kind of like go back and forth really quick on the grater, never really lifting, and it makes those like nice ribbon pieces. And then once those are to your softened desired texture, go ahead and add your ground meat back into that and let it warm up, and then add in 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar, and then it calls for 3 tablespoons of coconut aminos. I have this ABC medium sweet soy sauce, and I got this at an Asian market near me, and I've had it in the refrigerator. I need to use some up, so I thought this would be perfect for that. If you don't have something like this, of course you can still use coconut aminos or even soy sauce. I did actually up it. It says 3 tablespoons. I did 4 of this, and I kind of just stirred in between each one to see. I didn't want it to be too sweet, but I wanted that touch of sweetness to our liking. I was even going to add a little bit of soy sauce for that saltiness as well, but I thought, you know what, we'll just do that to our own individual plates if that's what we like. And so I just served this over white rice, and I put some sesame seeds on top. I was gonna do green onions and just completely forgot, but this was good. Like, I love a meal like this that you can just like throw together really quick, and you can have a lean protein if you don't want to have the fattier protein, and it's just got so much flavor, and it's very filling, and of course it can stretch out really to a larger meal to feed a family with, you know, bulking up with vegetables, whatever you have on hand, stir fry vegetable wise. Even frozen vegetables would work great, but like I said, I just had these on hand, but it was really good and we really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little bell so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I hope you all are having a great day.